I'm Sonya, a personal brand and style coach. My journey began in the corporate world and through lived experiences has led me where I am today. I've walked in those uncomfortable shoes, faced the same challenges and questioned my path to professional success while simultaneously navigating my personal style journey and the challenges that each decade brings. I wholeheartedly believe in the fusion of personal brand and style strategy. My mission here is to provide you with practical, actionable strategies and lived experiences to help you unlock your next level of success through the power of personal brand and style. Let's get started. Welcome to another episode of the Style and Strategy podcast. I am your host, Sonya, and I hope you have been enjoying our little mini summer series that I have been bringing to you over the last couple of weeks. We've got a few more to go as we head into the countdown to the end of 2024 and look to have some downtime for a little bit. Look, this week's episode, as I mentioned last week, is really brought to you because I had a listener ask, could you do a podcast on sustainability? And I have done one a little bit earlier on. So if you're interested in hearing more about sustainability versus ethical practices and some hints and tips around those and some brands that, very much focused on both ethical practices as well as sustainability, don't forget to take a listen to that episode. I know that you might really enjoy it. So this time round, I thought I would take a slightly different approach to sustainability and really look at it from putting on a complete stylist hat and looking at it as, well, how do we actually help sustainability, especially when it comes to fashion, style within your existing wardrobes? Because we know that, the stat is something like 80% of many women's wardrobes, aren't necessarily the workhorses, right? They're not the ones getting, and I don't particularly like that terminology. And so we all know that stat that 80% of our wardrobe is really not necessarily getting, maximum return on investment. And whereas 20% are probably doing the most hard yards for us. And one of my, objectives has always been, no matter what client I work with, I want to make sure you are getting maximum value out of what you've got in your wardrobe, and that certainly anything else that gets put back in again, that you can wear it, more with lots of different ways and lots of different occasions from work through to weekend. Because that's just a fundamental value of mine. If you're going to invest money into purchasing pieces, then you want to be able to wear them, right? They shouldn't just be sitting there gathering dust unless they're a sort of a future investment piece. Maybe it's a one of a kind, Galliano or something like that that is sitting there. And that's a different story, right? Yeah, because that's appreciating in value over there. Or maybe it's your Chanel that you purchased many years ago that is actually nicely sitting in a pristine box as an investment piece. But being able to support clients with this plays a big role in, I believe, supporting sustainability overall. And so how am I drawing this bow? So let's get into it. So what I'm going to be talking about today is how even some small steps, awareness can actually make your stamp towards improving sustainability overall, especially when it comes to the fashion industry. You can do some of these things yourself and make some stamps towards that. And that it doesn't mean just necessarily having to purchase, ethical and sustainable options. If you can, amazing, right? That's more that you can actually do. But, sometimes we want to be able to work out, well, how else can we do this? And so probably number one for me is get to know those friends you've got and collected in your wardrobe. What have you actually got sitting in there? And if they are not, and I'll quote Marie Kondo here, sparking joy for you, then, don't necessarily leave those in there, creating more clutter and confusion and, potential other impacts in there. Let's work out ways of being able to pass those on to share with others, especially if they are in good nick. So, part one, get to know those pieces. The more that you can get to know those pieces, the better understanding you will have of what's still working for you and what's not. But not only that from a style side of things, but really, what do you then need, really? What is the gap for you? Because understanding the gap will help you then ensure that when you're going out, you're not overbuying or you're not purchasing full stop things that you just don't need, which is helping in reducing the amount of clothing that may end up in landfill over the long term. Being able to know how to maximize your wardrobe and maximize the number of ways that you can wear pieces in your wardrobe week after week, that's another way of being able to utilize what you have. So that's probably number one for me. Number two is if you have a partner or maybe you've got older kids, don't underestimate that there might be pieces in there that they have grown out of that actually might be something you may be able to use in your wardrobe. So, case in point, this has happened to me a couple of times now, maybe more than a couple of times. As many of you know, I've got 3 kids. So 2 boys and my daughter who is 8. So the 2 older boys have obviously gone through and, body shape changes and so forth over the years and absolutely rediscovering what their own style has been, which has been a fascinating journey. Let me know if you'd love to hear a podcast on that alone, because it has been really interesting to be part of it and to watch it evolve. But what's sort of happened is they've naturally gone through their wardrobes and then they've gone, here's all this stuff that I don't want anymore. And I remember buying some of this stuff originally. And so when I've started to go through these pieces thinking, oh my goodness, half of these are brand new. They still look new. Yes, my first option could be considering, some of the stores that are out there that are the resell, the consignments and so forth, which I'll touch on in a bit. But my first thought process was actually, oh, you know what? I think I might actually fit into some of these. And so when I had a look through, my son had some old suit shirts that he had worn to a job that he'd had that were really nice, but they weren't his style anymore and they didn't fit as well on him. And so I actually grabbed one of those and then I started looking at it and I tried it on because the fabric was really nice. And was thinking, oh my God, this would look fantastic with a white singlet underneath and, a pair of shorts left open, for a beach day or, just really casually for a summer's day. So actually, I'm going to take that because I'm going to rewear that. We're going to give that one new life. The second one being my other son had been used to getting his entire life hand-me-downs from his older brother. And as part of that, he'd ended up with some T-shirts and things that, weren't necessarily his body shape. But then again, the circle back, these T-shirts were pretty good nick. And so I started looking at them too going, well, Some of these my husband might fit into, and some of these actually my daughter would actually wear because they were kind of long line t-shirt. They were short and fitted for them, but for her would be long line. So again, I was starting to work through how can I get more out of these pieces that we already have invested money in and I don't want to go to landfill, and how can we utilize it differently? So the third example here is there was a suit jacket. Case in point, I am actually wearing it today. And if you go back through previous episodes, I am wearing it quite a bit because it's actually one of my favorite jackets. Now, this suit jacket, and you can see there, is actually, for those, watching on YouTube, is an Oxford 100% wool men's slim fit suit jacket. Now, this jacket no longer suited my son, and I tried it on, and it has got to be the best suit jacket ever. So, I wanted something a bit more long line, a little bit loose and less fitted, but I didn't, the oversized jackets that you would buy, from the stores, for me, as someone who's 155 centimeters, were just way too oversized. And so this instead provides that really nice balance of oversize as well. So I've been able to get new life into this. So going back to sustainability, being able to actually recirculate within our own family household is probably another example, I would say. The third way of thinking about sustainability is also thinking about if you have some of those pieces that you're not wearing and maybe, they're too old to maybe go to a St. Vincent de Paul, and you were going to throw them out and things. Think about, is there another way, another option we could do here? So one is thinking about rags. Sometimes you need rags to clean the cars, work around the house, that type of thing. If they're 100% cotton, then, it's potential you could use them in that manner. And you might be thinking, oh my gosh, talk about using to that next nth degree. But, this episode is about sustainability. And so I'm trying to think of ways that we can actually get more out of things before we throw them out. The second one would actually be, and I've done this with my daughter a bit, for those of you who are a little bit handy with a sewing machine and you might have dolls or things, toys around the house that kids may want to put clothes on them or things like that, think about, could you turn it into a handkerchief? Could you turn it into a dress? Could they cut it up? Could they play with it? Could they make something with it? So that is another option as well of trying to really think outside the square when it comes to getting more out of it. And then number 4 for me would be obviously not only maybe donating to resellers and so forth, but then thinking about when you do need something, it's popping into those stores and having a look through. If you haven't done that in the past, it's absolutely worth a look, especially, there's so many of these stores popping up everywhere at the moment. And so, the fun of being able to find a piece in there that perhaps you're still seeing at full price somewhere, and someone has decided it's no longer for them, and maybe it's past the resale return date, and they've put it onto the resale rack at a quarter of the price. And I can tell you, over the last few months especially, I have seen things that were current stock at full price and have seen them in store at the resellers and so forth, again at a quarter of the price, both at high-end labels, and I've also seen them, at your everyday labels as well. So definitely an option to think through when you're thinking about sustainability. So if I wrap this segment up and go back to some of those key points. So one is really being able to understand what is in your wardrobe. So spend that time, have a look through, get clear about it, maybe declutter a little bit. So number 2 being, how do you recycle, rewear around your own household? Number 3 is there another cycle down of usage for those clothes? So think about that, the rags, the alternatives for dress up clothes, other pieces like that. And then number 4 being considering, really starting to take note of, if you've seen a piece, maybe go look for a similar piece in one of the resellers that are around, of course, places like St. Vincent de Paul or the Salvos, for example. Any of those could provide options for you as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this alternative take on sustainability options. And I will speak to you all next week as I dive into getting ready for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So I hope that you've really enjoyed this episode and you're going to take away some hints and tips. Let me know, drop me an email or drop me a DM and let me know how you go.
Thank you so much for being part of this inspiring episode. If you found value in today's discussion, please don't keep it a secret. Share it with a friend on social media, tag me at Your Style Collective, and leave a review. Your support means the world. Join me again next week for another empowering episode of Style and Strategy, the Leadership Series. Thanks so much for tuning in. And remember, you're already taking that first step towards your transformation journey. See you next time.